goes into how effort and antidotes and practices can actually serve to corrupt. And I've made a point many times. I'm not just kind of being reckless with the Dharma here, but I grew up around Vajrayana Buddhism since I was a kid. My mom has always been a Nyingma Buddhist, so I've seen people get delayed and obscured by provisional practices without ever really understanding Ati Yoga. I feel like we can waste a lot of time in the Dharma and we can become subtly nihilistic, with the no self teachings and deity worshiping without knowing that these are aspects of mind and personifications of mind and things like that, without ever being introduced to the final chapter of the book, you see? Um, it's kind of sad to see folks uh, go through the Dharma and never really be introduced to that final chapter. I feel like they should know what they're getting into. So, therefore, I'm very happy that these naked yoga, kind of Ati yoga practices, are available to us now with the internet, the information age. It's a whole different ball game, that's for sure. We have access to teachings and texts across many centuries and from many great practitioners. And we really have a science to this. Like the Dalai Lama says, the Dharma is a kind of mind science. It's not really a religion, but some have practiced it as a religion, and it is a world religion, but not not to some of us. To some of us, it's a meditation path. Okay, so let's see what Jigmé Lingpa has to say. This is from Jigmé Lingpa's Great Vastness Heart Drop Cycle. I bow to the aware, ever-present good. And remember, that's Kuntazampo or Samantabhadra. Your mind is Kuntazampo, the all good. 8 conceptual approaches. Once known, mind itself is like space. The nature of space is that there is nothing that is space. In the same way, examples cannot really point out awareness. Yet I rely on such methods to shed light on key points. What is it like when a poor man has a priceless treasure in his home but doesn't know it? Just as he remains poor, you remain entangled in the net of unaware thinking. How heartbreaking, you beings benighted in samsara. What is it like when you turn your back on the natural path? Because you are enthralled by mistaken beliefs, your puritanical practice is lopsided, based as it is, on some flawed metaphysical theory. How reactive you are, you irrational extremists. Mind itself, originally pure, is like space. As long as you look for it with conceptual tools, you are like a bug encasing itself in its own spit. In your obsession, you turn your back on what is truly meaningful. How worn out you must be, you listeners, from rejecting everything. So, listeners is definitely a reference to the Shravakayana, right? Mind is the source of all experience, patterned or free. Pattern, again, I'm going to say, is a reference to karmic imprints. And now we have these ideas of neuroplasticity and emotional plasticity. So we're really talking about a kind of cyclic programming, which is good for us mind scientists um, to know, well, am I in a pattern? Uh, am I meeting up with an old friend of mine? A mood that I've had many times, or a narrative, a story that I've replayed many times in my mind? These are old friends, they're patterned. But here it's saying even if you have the patterns or you're free. Okay? So you wake up completely when you rest and do nothing at all. Again, if you want to know the essence of our approach in this group, that line will sum it up for you. You wake up completely when you rest and do nothing at all. Isn't that ironic? All this trying, all this striving, all this talk about cultivating, and then at the end of the book, they tell you actually rest and do nothing. Forget about the 500,000 mantras you just did, or many more in other cases. But to be fair, mantras can be nice. So instead, you are dogmatic and single minded in your belief in the teachings of ignorance, interdependence, and samsara. How pleased you must be, you self reliant ones, with your artificial awakening. That's a reference to the Pratyeka Buddhas because it says the self reliant ones. Mind is self, innately complete in all its potential, is conceived in uncontrived naturalness. Yet you sophists, who take the two truths literally, distort being itself with your logic and analysis. How long your journey, you followers of awakening, being philosophy? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a reference to the Madhyamikas. The Madhyamikas. So basically, those approaching Buddha Dharma philosophically. A lot of people like to throw Yogacara in there, but to me, and this could be maybe um, my limited understanding, but to me, Yogacara is more of a technical breakdown of the mind. It's Abhidharma, just kind of uh, breaking down the mechanics for us in the eight consciousnesses and the five wisdoms. It's not really a philosophy. When they say mind only, they're saying the same thing as the first line of the Dhammapada. It's not an assertion that mind exists. When I read through the texts by Vasubandhu and Asanga, his brother, I just don't get that vibe that it's a philosophy that posits an existential conclusion. Now, some later philosophies, or even no, in the beginning, where they assert that atoms exist, particles exist, um, those kinds of things. Now, those are going into existential assertions, would be countered to Madhyamaka, right? Um, because Madhyamaka, of course, and Buddha Dharma in general is non-existential. It doesn't label or profess to have a conceptual conclusion about reality. If you really ask a true Dharma practitioner, what is this whole reality about? They will say, I'm sorry, my friend, it's ineffable. I don't even have the words. I don't have the thoughts and ideas to summarize it accurately for you. Now, if you want to just dance around with words and ideas, that's fine. That's what we do. But we have to know that the great samaya of ineffability. We have to embrace that as we read all these beautiful words and songs. Okay, so it says, while mind itself doesn't take up the good or give up the bad, a meticulous practice of purity acts as an added pollutant. With the forms of dualistic fixation, you distort what is not too. You seek a sublime state where there is nothing to be obtained. How elegant you are, you followers of ritual philosophy. I imagine that's talking about kind of, oh, I wonder if they skipped the Bodhisattva yana there and went into Kriya Yoga. But it seems to be either about Charya or Kriya Yoga. Yeah. In experience itself, which doesn't become better or worse, the conventions of outlook, practice, and behavior fall away. Yet, because of your investment and intelligent and skillful action, the way you think leads you astray. You act when there's nothing to be done. How tiring your chosen disciplines, you followers of behavioral tantra. Oh yeah, that's the conduct, the charya yoga yana and the mahu. I think it's a maha yoga yana reference too, because they're still dealing with conduct in the path of um, transformation. This is a little technical for just for those who are keeping up with that kind of thing. It's not totally vital information by any means. So, no outside, no inside, and nothing in between. That quality of attention is mind itself, free from conceptual distortions. Yet your thinking creates symbols for what is profound and clear. How ineffective, you followers of union philosophy. Definitely a reference to Tantra there. Symbols mean all this ritualistic stuff and all these deity images and everything. Effort and potential don't affect how mind is. It is what it is. You ride the result. While complex practices may restore vitality to mind, channels, and energy, how tiring they are, you followers of similar union. That's a reference to Anu Yoga, where they deal with channels, Tsalung, with the winds. Right there, mind is actually synonymous with the winds, uh, lung, or prajna, the mind energy. Yeah, for some reason, this translator decided to translate it as mind, but it could be winds, channels, and energies. I'm pretty sure. Huh. So, mind itself has no heads, hands, or regalia. Seeing what arises as a deity's form or hearing sounds as a mantra, such fixed notions lead you astray. You won't see mind itself through the path of great union. Timeless freedom in great completion, wonder of wonders. My nature is great completion, complete in all experience, patterned or free. There's nothing to give up or attain. Complete. All key instructions end up in utterly natural release. All key outlooks end up in no conceptual position. All paths of practice end up in making no effort. All teachings on behavior end up in no do's or don'ts. Complete. The essence of result is to be free of hope. And this term complete is just a concept too. So there, I've been saying for a while, I don't like the don't thing because we can't say to practitioners, don't do this, don't do that. It's almost a kind of gaslighting. Everywhere you see the Dharma is like that. You see all these teachers saying, what you need to do is don't be angry, don't be sad. And it's a kind of like you're gonna be angry, you're gonna get sad. Give me the solution. Don't just tell me what the problem is. We've known the problem. We know we're sinners. We've been branded that way for a long time. So how do we get rid of the ignorance, right? And the anger and attachment and all this stuff. That's why I like Dzogchen, because it's not just sitting there saying, "You're angry, you're desirous, you're way too attached." And then we sit there and we're doing mantras and the attachment's not going away and we're like, "Oh," right? So really a kind of weird dynamic there between other paths that where we're doing stuff, we're doing all this stuff that's not really doing anything except perhaps even deepening our samsaric experience, even in some cases. Now, I do believe in the blessings and the connection with the lineage, but so many teachers aren't even mentioning awareness. So that's a tough one. You have to kind of use your what you see as a case study, and if you don't see people really moving forward in a lot of these previous yana practices, then yeah, maybe maybe follow the scriptures that say Dzogchen is actually good for these times that we're living in. So free of hope is also what Longchenpa says in "You Are the Eyes of the World." I found it helpful recently. Oh yeah, yeah, and that's also they correlate that with hoping to be in another state or hoping to reach some other state other than the one right here, right now. I love the last line. This term complete is also a concept. So, awakening mind is the essence of all experience. Awakening mind is the heart of all awakened ones. Awakening mind is the life force of all beings. Apparent and ultimate are not found in awakening mind. So, the union of the two truths there. To say it does not make it empty. Oh, excuse me. To say it is not does not make it empty. To maintain it is does not make it solid. It is a realm beyond thought, untroubled, nothing held, nothing dispelled, a space free from the complications of thought and object. Because I am free from the thinking that distorts experience, the evolution of good and evil ends completely. What are deities, mantras, and absorptions meant to do? I'm not a wakefulness that comes from practice. My nature is universal presence. How can seeing come through paths and levels? Therefore, having loosened the knots of expectations, let go of outlook's razor edge and rest. Step out of deep practice's cozy cocoon and rest. Yeah, it can be a cocoon, like I said before, because as long as you're always practicing trying to get somewhere else, you have a dependent imputation there where you're basically saying, I'm not perfect now. And it creates a cocoon because you hold this deep in your mind that I'm practicing every day to get somewhere else. But the fact is that as long as you log that away, that you're not there already, and you're kind of patterning that, you're kind of reifying that confusion by constantly telling yourself you need to get somewhere else. Dzogchen is very much about arriving here. Mhm. So I do believe what of burning off karma. Well, as you rest, the karma burns it off naturally because you're no longer preoccupied in the karma. That's why these teachers are advising to rest, just rest naturally, let it be, because then it's the difference between being involved in the song in your head and keeping it going and really being into it, or just stepping out of the song and letting it exhaust itself. So everybody's had a song in their head. You cannot really get rid of it. It goes away by itself. It exhausts. And just like that, all of our karmic cycling exhausts itself, even if you're not an awareness holder. Death, for example, is a huge exhaustion of karma. But that stuff you have in your subtle mind kind of logged away will be the momentum for your next rebirth then. Mhm. So break out of behavior's constricting conventions and rest. Throw away expectations for dramatic results and rest. Yeah, Dzogchen can be found in the mundane. It can be found in, well, if you're able to be with your sadness, if you're able to be with your anger and anxiety and insecurities and awkward feelings, your sadness, your jealousy, your pride, these all have a flip side to them. The moment you can start being with them with a sense of kindness without attaching a story, um, even if you can do it in a few minutes at a time, just being there with your state of consciousness. That's in that mundane abiding right there. Wisdom reveals itself. That's kind of the great secret. We get very excited and we kind of grandize this path and want dramatic results, right? We want this huge fireworks show. But even recognition is just a little aha moment because you're still in the cloud of conditioning. You're still in your conditioned mind. So it's impossible, even if you were on drugs, you may have had this vivid experience that was very powerful, but you're going to go right back uh, to your mundane experience. So to see Buddhahood in the mundane really is the secret there. Um, the dramatic results come when your own conditioned sort of cloud goes away. Yeah. So practice or not practice, attention goes beyond. Act or not act, decisions melt away. Empty or not empty, awakening mind is beyond. Be or not be, there is a vastness wherein these differences fade away. Awareness. Not a word, not a thought, no description at all. Has as its access no corrective, no holding of position. Its nature is bare, steady, fresh and unfolding, a vastness free from all effort and complications. Rest where there is no change or time. The elimination of errors. Wonder of wonders! Thus, awakening mind, in which there is nothing to give up or attain, this Buddha nature, which is awareness and peace, is present in you. Still, it is trapped in a cage of inventions. Any notion of practice clouds the heart of the matter. No origin, nothing there. That's just how it is. Perception doesn't arise or vanish. When you make it more than that, it's like making form out of what is formless. You lose touch with what is natural, how reactive you become. Some people cut off the ebb and flow of thoughts and feelings and construct an emptiness practice contaminated by goal seeking. Their forced and constricted practice wears them out. Serious problems develop when reactive energy enters the life channel. Some just do not see what is naturally present. Misled by what is said about presence, their practices are ineffective. They take as the essence of practice a dullness that suppresses thoughts and feelings. They are very confused. Some who know that movement and memory are mind mull over the traces as thoughts and feelings ebb and flow. They track the arising and fading of thinking. With this meditation, even if they practice for 100 years, they just spin in confusion. In general, work and effort by themselves create opposition. If you practice, you stir up all sorts of pains and discomforts. If you don't practice, you don't see what you are and wander in confusion. In either case, you lose touch with what is straightforward and natural. Wonder of wonders. Because these errors stop you from going beyond ordinary experience, be clear that the approach of practice versus not practice relies on an artificial distinction. Without trying to reshape it in any way, rest in what you experience right now. I'll say again, if you ever want to know the meditation advice, how to meditate in Dzogchen Mahamudra, there it is. Without trying to reshape things in any way, rest in what you experience right now, which happens to be a very effective technique in cognitive behavioral therapy as well. So, when you give up your reactive checking, managing, and goal seeking, all of it. There's a direct knowing, open and free. Stop changing or altering it. Rest right there. Then, when conceptual thinking arises, don't look at what arises. Be what knows the arising. There's another good line there. Um, as thoughts come and go, you're no longer engulfed or subsumed or pulled around by those thoughts. Yeah, you're in this kind of volumetric like cognizance that's broader. It's a broader scope than the thought dimension. So you're able to actually withdraw from all that dynamic fluctuation of the thoughts, which can be volatile, right? They can be very volatile, emotions and thoughts. And when we're in them and we don't know that there's any other option, uh, it can be pretty extreme. It can get pretty crazy pretty quick for all of us. We've all been there. And many of people have ended their lives, joined extreme belief systems, all kinds of stuff because they don't know how to exit their thought dimension. Nobody's ever shown them a broader scope. It's all cognizance, but we get trapped in a smaller dimension, a cocoon of thoughts and feelings. And we can still have those thoughts and feelings, but now we're zooming out into a broader point of view to where, yeah, I might get angry, I might get sad, but it's not undertowing me, right? It's not taking me under the water and rolling over me. Now it's more of an expression of my mind rather than a consumption of my being. All right. So, like an oak peg in hard ground, stand firm in awareness that knows and go deep into the mystery. And here, I mean, I don't know if I need to cite all the stats again for how limited our language and our thoughts are, but it's pretty much like an ant trying to figure out an iPhone if we only use our thoughts. Here you have access to the true nature of your mind, a broader scope of intelligence as well. And that's why, even though we don't have the words or the concepts to see the true nature of reality, we don't need the words and the concepts. Just like when you go swimming in the ocean, you will never be able to express that with words, what that is like to be in the water. We don't need to. You can go swimming in the ocean and you don't need to use any words to describe it. The same way, you can go swimming in awareness and lose any words trying to describe it and swim deep into that mystery of revelation, wisdom, and compassion. Very beautiful. Jigmé Lingpa is truly a treasure revealer, huh? So, even in this experience of naked presence, in which there is no movement or change, if you don't avoid the mire of position based correctives, you lose your way in analysis and speculation. And I'd say this is a big hindrance for a lot of folks that get into Dzogchen. They recognize awareness or they may hear about it and they really become analytical about that and have a lot of speculation about what it is, what you've realized. Um, Thankfully, I think there's a safeguard. I think awareness practice, as long as you stay with it, will safeguard you against your mind's own tricks. Yeah. So, all the conventions of outlook, practice, and behavior are, in terms of what is natural, just intellectual chaff. Let correctives aimed at attention subside into space, with the chosen discipline of not being concerned about wandering. Just let things be. Don't change anything at all. In a space beyond all complications and effort lies a great treasure, no thought, no thinking. To know that from the beginning there is no awakening is to be where wanting has never been. With this special teaching that rots the roots of samsara, Wake up from the realm of misery. When you open and relax, there's an emptiness that goes beyond true or false. Here, if you know arising release, natural release, and direct release, you are no different from all the awakened ones. And there, I'd like to make a correlation between the three modes of self liberation. So it looks like many of you do know those different modes of release. And now, Jigmé Lingpa may not be referring directly to the three modes, but it sounds a lot like the three modes of liberation. So you are awake and no different from me. Very nice line. You are awake right now. You can begin to embrace that. And, it's just a matter of taking off the blanket of our misconceptions. We have a blanket over our enlightened state, our pure intelligence, our wisdom mind. We have a kind of blanket over it. It's not that we need to create anything or discover anything anew. We just need to take the blanket of our confusion, our fixation, and discursion. We just remove that blanket, release, surrender into pure presence. Uh, our mind can be very finicky, if something doesn't go our way, uh, e- even though there's an intuition in the background telling us it's going to be fine, we still get mad and frustrated and, perpetuate cycles. It's very interesting, especially in the beginning of Dzogchen. You get to watch your mind do lots of silly stuff. It becomes like watching the Three Stooges, I imagine. Hey, you owe me $20. Here's 10. I'll give you 10 later. Oh, you owe me $20. Oh, here's 10. I'll give you 10 later. Anyway, that's a reference to a very cyclic Three Stooges skit that exemplifies samsara, if you ask me. So, in this age of strife, these vital instructions for the great mysteries are mingled with the canonical writings of the analytical approach. A knowledge holder who is not different from me will make my revelations clear. To me, that right there, that line is so special and beautiful. I've always had a deep heart connection with these lineages and yogis. We're still in an age of strife, although now the teachings are less persecuted, they're more confused, and we have more charlatans and things like that. But I really think it's cool how he kind of hid Ati Yoga within the other approaches, and only a true yogi could actually decode that and discover it, almost like a treasure being hidden. Uh, yeah. So to me, that's a very sweet line right there. So, embodiments of the awakened beings of the three families, masters of this teaching, and those blessed with natural talent, enjoy and make use of it. Okay, I think that's it then. Deep bow to Jigmé Lingpa and to all the Sangha here today. Thank you so much for your presence and Yeshi for facilitating that.